impact on residents for a long time to come. The document as it stands has, it needs to be topped and tailed and to be put into presentable order, but by and large, we stand by this, and I think probably the best way to deal with it, I understand that Richard has got some changes and movements. Are they very large, Richard? Because if they're going to take a lot of time this evening, perhaps we could meet separately and read into this document.
Councillor Butler. Councillor Stack, would you turn the mic off just for a moment, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, no, I'll pass over to my colleague anyway, Councillor Newmark, who's actually been doing some work on this. In most of the document that you presented with us, we're pretty much in favour. There's a few amendments we wish to add. We'd also like to leave it slightly open from the Labour side, so that anything else in addition to be added at a later stage before the 6th of December can be added. Obviously, passing agreement through you as leader, passing obviously through.
This is our last opportunity to meet.
No, but we would pass that agreement to you. So if there's an additional thing that came up,
okay,
we would pass it to you as the leader of the Conservative group, and then you could notify your members, and if there's any issue, you can come back to us. But I think it's quite important that we do leave it open till the last moment, so that we can add anything that may crop up. But Councillor Newmark has the relevant.
Alarm Society to feed it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll pass over to Councillor Newmark.
Councillor Newmark.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. We only got the latest version of the draft just before we came into the meeting this evening. So as Councillor Butler has said, we would like to sort of leave it open and certainly not go through a whole host of what are relatively minor drafting changes this evening. However, there are a small number of substantive points that we would like to flag this evening. We think it's unhealthy that the substantive points wouldn't be aired transparently and openly at full council. There should be cross-party support on this, and we would strive to work with you to reach a document that we can all agree on, but equally it mustn't be seen by the public as a political car bar. So if you'll grant me a moment or two, I will run through the substantive points, which are not huge in number. On the first page, the document makes reference to our agreement with the CPRE response, and indeed you append the initial CPRE response to the document, and we agree with you that it is an excellent response, and we should certainly echo it, amplify it and support it. However, you might not be aware that actually late last week the CPRE issued a second response, a technical response. It is about 25 pages long. It's really an excellent document that has got under the skin of the very local issues, particularly around Cornwall and Elstree. So what we would suggest is that text is amended to make reference to both of the CPRE responses, and that we do indeed append the technical response to this document as well. Our second comment is in relation to the text on page 2 and 3 in relation to evidence of need for school places. We don't think it's quite correct to say that no evidence has been provided by Herts County Council to demonstrate need, because certainly it's Madam Mayor and myself have been present in meetings with Herts County Council as the education authority, in which they have supplied some very detailed data. Now that data, and again I think there's cross-party agreement on that, is deficient because it doesn't allow for pupils who live in the borough but are schooled outside the borough, and it doesn't account for the numbers of pupils from outside the borough who come into schools in the borough on a daily basis. Apparently that data doesn't exist. So it's not a case of no evidence, but it is a case of insufficient evidence. I think we should be precise and accurate about what we are referencing there. The third comment is in the section on public engagement, and we think that the second paragraph on page 3 actually belongs under the heading of public engagement. That just looks like a drafting error, but we feel that really there's not enough said there about the problems that many residents have raised with all of us as councillors about not receiving the paper leaflets through their doors, and in general we just felt that section could be strengthened to reflect the concerns that we are all aware of. I'm now skipping forward a number of pages to the comments on the specific sites. In terms of BE6, land north of Barnet Lane, effectively land known as Woodcock Hill Village Green. We're with you on this. We just think that the second sentence saying all proposed changes to the part of the site and the village will be challenged as being inappropriate and not contributing to an increase in biodiversity is just, it's slightly unreasonable, it's definitely inaccurate. We just feel that whilst we appreciate...
Can you just slow down? Whereabouts is that?
BE6, land north of Barnet Lane.
Oh, absolutely, no, where it is.
No, that's the heading, land north of Barnet Lane.
So which paragraph is that?
The first paragraph of that section that begins the part of the site. Sorry, the pages aren't numbered. Page 7. You with me?
Jeremy, just so what is it your,
We're simply suggesting that the second sentence of that opening paragraph is either improved or removed, because we don't think it adds to the argument. We think it just sounds unreasonable and detracts from it. And similarly, the final paragraph in that section about the fundraising of the Woodcock Hill Village Green Committee for tools, equipment and so on is very laudable work, and we know that a number of members of your group have been involved in that, but we don't think it's as relevant to the planning issues under discussion in relation to the local plan. We feel it's too parochial for this submission, not to detract from the work that's been done at all.
Can I answer that? Because you said to answer it now than at the end. There is a challenge to the village green. David Barrett was proposal to take away the management of the village green from the Woodcock Hill Committee and manage it themselves. They say that we're not managing it properly, and the proposal is to manage it like a rural park. Now, what I'm trying to demonstrate here, that a lot of public money has gone into ensuring that we keep it as a nature reserve, and this money has, and this is how the money has been used. And I think it's quite important. It's not a planning issue, but it is a moral issue to say that there's no reason for David Wilson Homes to take over management of that site.
And I completely appreciate that, and I'm sure you'll equally appreciate that the application that has been put into the Secretary of State effectively by Taylor Wimpey is completely separate from the local plan. And our concern is that we shouldn't use our submission to the local plan process in order to fight that fight, which we're with you on. And if I can explain why, because as you know, under the Regulation 19 phase, which is the next stage, the entire draft local plan will go to the independent examiner, Councillor Strack, and the independent examiner will make a decision and a judgment as to which interested parties will be asked to be part of the public examination and the hearings. If our submission is seen to be not reasonable or dragging in matters that are not strictly planning concerns, the town council risks not being called by the independent examiner to give evidence on those particular matters. So, look, you're the majority group, it's your call at the end of the day, that we would strongly advise that you keep the submissions on each of the individual sites very focused, otherwise we risk writing the town council out of the picture at the next stage, which is the independent examination. It's your
again, because you've got a map here with your bundle, and the map shows the village green. Now this is BE6, this area enclosed in red. Part of the site is for housing, and that is, but the other part of the site is the Reading Village Green. The Thames Winton site and the public inquiry that was due to be next week, and now is completely separate. That is this land here. So you have to be clear about which part of the village green that you're talking about. This is a different attack on the village green. And I take what you're saying, it is probably something that we do need to consider. We do not want to, it would be very important for the town council to be called to the Secretary of State if that's where it goes. Sorry.
May I just say, my thing is, we should meet on both sides and go through and come up with a suitable wording for that section.
Are you in agreement?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. We're just putting this advice forward to increase the chances of our submission being duly and being considered with the appropriate level of seriousness it merits. I'm now skipping over a page to site HEL 197, Hartfield Avenue development. And again, it's difficult to object on the grounds of pollution, noise, light and air quality when we're also objecting on the grounds that we don't know exactly what type of building would be put onto this site. That doesn't appear to be internally consistent. We also don't think that it's reasonable to talk about distance from the train station being a problem. It's a 6-minute walk from the train station. Similarly, impact on health and care facilities, when there are plenty of developments proposed in this plan that will have a negative impact on health and care facilities, but really the very small, very modest development that's being proposed here, it just doesn't sound reasonable to suggest that that is an issue. Also, I think we're not happy with saying that flats are inappropriate in an area of 2-storey family houses, because of course some of those flats would be much needed affordable accommodation. So we would like to see that section tightened up, and in particular the objection to flats removed, because that becomes, in effect, even if it's not the intention, an objection to affordable housing. I'm now going to skip forward to class the individual sites for residential development to site BE1, Shopwick Practice Relocation. We agree with everything that's in that site, in that analysis, but our proposal as a group is that actually this response requires a specific section on health provision, not just in respect of the Shopwick practice, but in respect of the issues we at the Town Council have had engaging or trying to engage with the CCG, in respect of the policy that was passed at our previous full council meeting on NHS GP provision in Boreham Wood, on the existing deficit, and on the need to do far more. We think it's not credible at the moment that the Town Council would comment on the proposed relocation of one practice, although we agree with what was said about it, but would not include a broader narrative on the problems with GP provision in the area. And our final comment is we note the input that's been put in regarding the traffic review at the end of this document, but we would like to see, absolutely consistent with everything we've discussed on this issue in recent months and years at the Town Council, a paragraph added really making the pitch for increased bus infrastructure around the town as a whole. We feel that is lacking from the document. So sorry that I've tried to rush through that as quickly as possible. Those are our substantive points. Any other points we have are minor and drafting, and we're happy to discuss them bilaterally.
But I would suggest that we two need to go through it and make sure it's tidied up and it's something, and then if both parties are happy for us to come to an agreement, then that can go forward. Is that?
Is that an agreement with everyone?
Yeah, absolutely.
The two parties get together, confirm a joint statement and go from there, but obviously it has to be done fairly quickly, because is it not, Jeremy, does it not have to be by December the 6th or something? So we'll have to move. Lovely, thank you, that's very good. And also this launch event, we all agree to go forward with that? It's only there. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. I thought that covered it actually, in the neighbourhood plan to consider approval of full council's stated intention to submit to Hartsmore Borough Council an area designation request for her neighbourhood plan, whole of Elstree and Bournemouth boundary. Approval of Alison Eardley, consulting as Town Council's appointed consultants for the purpose of neighbourhood planning, route map and entertainment committee chairman comments attached. And approval of a launch event in 2022 to be held at Fairway Hall for her neighbourhood plan, with the intention of appointing a working party with the advice of consultants at the time. Councillor Butchins.
Madam Chair, first of all, can I just point out that it shouldn't be the Entertainment Committee, I believe it should be ENP, rather than the Planning Committee. Yeah. Makes more sense that way. And yeah, I think that the point is we want to move ahead with this now. We've got basically a good idea of which way we need to go, and we'd like the full council's endorsement to move ahead on the basis as explained.
Is everyone in agreement with that? Agreed. Thank you. Item 6, community grants. Councillor Woodland.
Can I just declare that we are interested in regards to the High Centre?
Thank you, noted. The High Centre, Hanukkah event next Sunday, we agreed £5,000. Does anyone have any comment? I'm sorry, 5,500, I stand corrected, I'm very sorry. We have all been invited to this on Sunday, so I hope as many as you're able will come, because it's a special, really special event for the whole town. Underneath that, we're for Elstree and Bournemouth Unity Network. We awarded them £1,000. It was very, very successful. I went there, and I'm sure everyone's grateful that we did do that. Thank you. Do you all agree?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Number 7, a schedule of meetings. To adopt schedule of meetings 2021, previously approved and recommended to full council by the GMC meeting of the 7th of October 2021, minute 26. Is everyone in agreement? Thank you. Account for payments. You have got the list in front of you. Would you like me to read them? You've got the list. Does everyone approve? I have no comments, so I presume the answer is yes. Thank you. 9, sign minutes. To note the signed minutes of the committee meetings to form part of the official council minute book, as agreed by full council to be viewed by members on town council website in place of hard copies. Entertainment Committee since 30th of November 2021. Environment and Planning Committee since the 16th of March 2021. General Management Committee since the 22nd of April 2021. Transport and Road Safety Forum since the 21st of October 2020. Community Safety Meeting since the 30th of September 2020. Youth Council since the 24th of February 2021. Everyone in agreement? Agreed. 10. The Annual Return 2020-21. To approve and adopt 2020-21 Annual Return to the Town Council by the External Auditor. Everyone in agreement?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I just,
Councillor Bushin, yes.
sorry, someone else first, or? I was just going to say, I'd like to congratulate our financial officers on producing another successful annual return. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. No. I'm sorry, Joe, I'm sorry I didn't see you.
I was going to say exactly the same thing, so harmony continues to reign.
Lovely, thank you, that's really nice. Thank you. To note item 11, to note freedom of information request. To note following freedom of information requests submitted to Town Council since previous council meeting. On the 20th September 2021, bandstand purchased by Town Council and installed at Meadow Park. The response was on the 7th of October 2021. The 8th of October 2021, appointment of architects to carry out Fairway Hall and Council Offices Development Project, and that was responded to on the 20th of October 2021. Item 12, International Affairs Subcommittee. To consider motion to Council by members, Councillor A. Collins, seconded by Councillor R. Butler. This Council notes the decision taken by Councillors Strack, Bushins and Cornell to end the last meeting of the International Affairs Committee after 5 minutes, and their vote to dissolve the committee without discussion. Council believe this decision to be ultra-violent and in direct contradiction to the wishes of full Council. Council believe this is a shameful political attempt to cover up the shocking failure of the ill-fated China Sister Town project. Council condemns this decision and overturns it. Anyone? Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We would like to put forward an amended motion. I assume that's allowed, Mr. Clark. And it will read as follows, and I believe we take this first. Is that correct?
Well, I think that should
The
propose
should
the
go
motion
first.
should speak first to the motion that's proposed, and then
Then we'll go to the next
we'll
one.
go to whatever happens subsequently. But the motion is really important.
Absolutely.
Councillor
Proposed
Butler,
speaks first.
your turn.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for that. Yeah, look, I was shocked. I wasn't at this meeting, and we've had a really good meeting tonight. I really don't want this to go the other way now. Okay, so let's try and be constructive with this motion and debate. To me, I was shocked to hear from my colleagues. One was apologies. He sent his apologies. He said he would be 5 to 10 minutes late, which is reasonable. I was then told that actually the meeting lasted no more than 5 minutes. I walked in the room and the controlling group decided to shut the meeting down and dissolve the meeting. Yeah, at full council, it was in full agreement to continue with the subcommittee and to have it debated, chatted, ideas thrown around and have a normal committee like anyone else would. And to me, this just seems like a shameful way of saying we failed in the China Twin Town, we want to cover it up and we're running away, hence the motion. It might come across a bit aggressive, and I apologise if that's how it comes across, but I'm just really disappointed, because it's not how things are done. So I look forward to seeing what other people have to say.
Councillor Collins.
Yes, Madam Mayor. It is very sad to come to blows with regards to such an issue, because you see the subcommittee it has been constituted by the full council, and we found it very illegal, and for the subcommittee to just come about and dissolve such a committee. And this is tantamount to usurping power, and also it is ultra-violence, going about and just dissolving something at will. So I thought to bring it to full council so that there can be a bilateral discussion on such an issue, because the subcommittee hasn't got the power to go about and dissolve such a committee. such supposed to be discussed by full council, and then we come to an agreement or some consensus. But nobody has the right to, from the subcommittee, and just go about and unilaterally say, oh, look, this doesn't exist because of, you see, it's all about hiding behind some clouded curtain because of field policies. And I'm of opinion that those who feel that if they cannot carry on with such a thing, they should resign. And there are other competent members within our congregation. We can go about and we can go about and reconstitute this. But a single person cannot just come about and say within 5 minutes time we had a meeting, we had a proposed meeting, and then suddenly it comes to blow that, oh, this is dissolved and this is unilaterally done, this is said and done, and that's it, and nobody has been seen to it. I'm pleased that this has been brought, this motion has been brought to the full council, and we can discuss it about it as, intelligent people and find some solution to it.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Budgeon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I agree it's regrettable, but I think that in view of our motion, come to it, as and when we come to it, will reflect this, that the main reason that raison d'etre for the subcommittee was to continue with our relationship with China, as you realise. And given that the level of human rights abuse in China, as it is currently, is rather undesirable, certainly from our views in this country, it was not something that we felt we could continue with that link. Now, if we wanted to, for instance, set up a link with somewhere else, then there might be a reason for it to exist. But as it stands at the moment, there seems to be no reason to have it. It would have no business to carry out. I may understand to be corrected, but please express your views.
Councillor Barron.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm shocked. I mean, there's nothing new with what you said, yet you twinned with China as a group. The Labour group at the time said no. You pushed ahead with that, and yet we gave you such reasons why not to do it, and now you're using those reasons to cut it and stop it, which I find ironic. That's just really, really silly. I know some members have got their hand up, they wish to add to the debate. So I'm really, again, disappointed. I think it's sad, and we have actually said on our side that, and when we went to twin with China, we said, wouldn't it be better to twin with somewhere that would actually have an impact on our town? And we even suggested somewhere in Israel as well. We have a giant Jewish population in the local area. Wouldn't it be good to represent that part of our community? We actually we recommended that. We put that forward. You voted it down. You went with China. We turned around and said about the human rights issues at the time. You voted for it, and now you're using that exact same reason to say no. So, you know, it's actually shocking, to be perfectly honest. I look forward to other members having this to say. Thank you.
Councillor Newman was next, I believe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I certainly endorse the comments about the irony of the group opposite waking up, albeit belatedly, to the issues around human rights abuses, because I recall making a speech to this chamber over 2 years ago about the inherent difficulties of twinning with a province that had played host to dog eating contests, and with a regime that actually bans a large number of Western films, including with a list including almost all of those made in our own Elstree studios. And I remember being quite vigorously shouted down when I brought out those points. But I think the explanation we've just heard is slightly perplexing, because we did have a China twinning subcommittee, members will recall, that included all sorts of people and local business figures co-opted onto it, some of which I believe members opposite have now fallen out with. we agreed on a cross-party basis to replace the committee that was dedicated to the China twinning to a broader committee that could work with better and provide whatever support was needed on the twin town relationships, but also explore a broader set of cultural and economic ties, including, as Councillor Butler said, potentially with relevant areas in Israel and Palestine. Now, what we then did was have cross-party discussions that actually took place during lockdown in Councillor Parnell's garden. You were there, Councillor Strack, as well, and we agreed on a cross-party basis the terms of reference for this new, broader international affairs subcommittee. In fact, we discussed them twice in those meetings, and those terms of reference came to this chamber. We had a vigorous debate about whether or not this should be chaired by a member of your group or on a cross-party basis. We on this side lost that debate, and Councillor Strack, you were appointed as the chair of this committee. But to now come and say the only reason this committee existed was because of the China committee is revisionism. But let's not get caught up in the semantics and the detail. Let's be clear what this debate that we're having this evening is really about, because we're living in an era in which populist, isolationist politics are taking hold across the globe. They are the politics of division, the politics of fortresses, and the politics of hatred. And we, in our own little humble way in this town, have an opportunity to demonstrate a bit of internationalism, a bit of solidarity, and try and break down some of those walls and barriers by, again, in our own small, humble way, developing some global links, economic ties, for the benefit of local people and others across the world. That's what this committee was established to do. That's very clear in its terms of reference. Now, if there's been some misunderstanding, then perhaps now is the time to accept that there's been a misunderstanding and reaffirm those principles of internationalism and solidarity, and work together to turn this committee into a vehicle to achieve those aims, both for the betterment of this town and also for the betterment of the global society that we are all part of.
Councillor.
This is just to make the discussion 360 degrees. 360 degrees in the sense, if we want to dissolve the International Affairs Committee, subcommittee, we can do it, provided we can say that because of Brexit, we do not want to have any links with these Franco-German towns and also with the China. Otherwise, as long as we have the links, we need to have a subcommittee of councillors. If we say that we don't want to have any links, that's a different issue altogether.
Thank you. I will remind you, we do have better. The Twin Town Association, we do have some links. I do appreciate it's not connected. No, I know, I know she's here, of course I do. But, oh, I'm so sorry, I couldn't see that. Who wishes to speak? Councillor Early, I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Carter, I seem to be listening things always, and any advice to advise you correctly to invite. The subcommittee is different from the Twin Town Association, and for them, I have non-pecuniary interest in about data. So, and Paul should take notes. So, what I'm trying to say here is you're mixing the two things together. Let's focus on the subcommittee and leave data out of it. And data is used to twin with others. This subcommittee came up differently. So don't try to mix things up. So let's focus on one case. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just want to echo what Councillor A just said there. You're absolutely right. Better is a fantastic organisation. I know we've got our biggest critic at the back of saying the honour, I think. So, better strengthens links within the town. I, for one, when I was younger, actually met people from Fontenay, and still have those links today. And that's years and years on. So actually, you know, I'm a prime example of why twinning is actually a good thing. And we've had members, some members opposite who actually stood at local elections were unsuccessful a bit here, even met loved ones through twinning. So, you know, twinning is actually a fantastic thing, and it strengthens links with communities, businesses. There's a whole range of good things about it. And you're absolutely right to point the differences out between what this subcommittee is about and what twinning is about. This subcommittee, in my eyes, is about our authority, the town council, like Councillor Newmark has just said, to reach out to other areas, other countries, to strengthen new links, new bonds, to open doors and to show the world that actually, even as a small little town, we can actually have links throughout the world. Now, this is what this committee was about. I would like this committee to go back, have a meeting, and look at new links. If you don't want to continue to link with China, I'd welcome that. Absolutely welcome that, and I'd support the council in that. However, it would be great to then look at another link somewhere else within this world, outside of the European Union, because we have 2 links there already, which I'm sure we can still work closely with the Better Twin Town. If we want to look at other European countries, I'm very happy to do that as well. But that's what this committee is about. And I would really, really urge this council to support continuing with this subcommittee to look at new links. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Bushing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with most of what's been said, first of all. I'm very much in favour of all twinning that we can achieve. And I would like to remind Councillor Newmark that the very reason for setting up the link with China was for the purposes that he enunciated there about educational, cultural, business links and everything, in order to bring the countries closer. That was the only thing. Unfortunately, of course, the pandemic came in as well, which has rather stymied a lot of international activity. And that's just the way it is. I'd be very open to reconstituting the committee at any time once we have a proposal to twin with a town in Israel or wherever. And I'm sure my colleagues would be as well. But it's something that we can revive as and when we've got reason to revive it. But at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any specific purpose for it. That's my view. Others may agree or disagree, I don't know. But,
Thank you, Councillor Cummins.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, yeah, you see, the whole thing about twinning is all about globalizing, bringing ourselves together. I've been to China on six separate occasions. And it is very sad. I will point out that a lot of folks within our community, they go about and they only listen to the news media. What the media tells them is what they believe is happening in China. A lot of places, even in France, they have human rights violations ongoing. Everywhere. You see, when you look on television, you see live the Shanabelli and other people, how they're going about, but people, they come about and talk about China. China is a big country. China has a lot to offer. The first thing, China, I can tell you, their culture is very, very rich and very, very far-reaching. And the whole thing that we brought about this motion is to discuss about how to go about and come to some consensus. Not that we should just come about and unilaterally say that, oh, this subcommittee is dissolved. It is unfortunate that the subcommittee, the chair of the subcommittee just came about without any prior discussion with this body. Just came about and said that, oh, we dissolved this and that's it. That is law and gospel. It is very gratifying that we are talking about it now. And I think, just like how our leader, Councilor Butler, has said that we can go about and see how best we can revive things and see how best we can make things happen in the interest of everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we have to go to Ms. Motion, is that correct?
That's, Madam Mayor, I don't know whether Councillor Butchin still wants to put his motion across as well. I don't know whether it's an amendment. Is this an amendment or a new motion? It could be considered as either, I think, to be fair, because it will depend on which order you vote on. Can I separate motion?
So therefore, if we not vote on that.
But that motion first. If it's helpful, can I just clarify, because I think there's been some discussion about the legality of this matter. As you know, I was at the subcommittee meeting, and I did, although I think the meeting had already finished at that point, point out to all present, I know a number of you were present, Councillor Collins, Martini and other members here, to say that, yes, this subcommittee was appointed by full council, and so therefore it should be full council that disbands it. I think the chair accepted that point and said, well, it will have to go to full council then, hence the Roman numeral 2 here. So in effect, the meeting wasn't the meeting was closed. It's up to members what they do in meetings, and yes, what happened was that there was a vote taken to stop the meeting very, very quickly, and so the meeting ended. But to actually disband the International Affairs Subcommittee, whether it's populated or not, or whether it meets or not, would require a council decision. So that's why it's on the agenda in that way. Of course, you could have a committee or a subcommittee, and if you choose not to meet until you deem that it's an appropriate time to do so, that's one thing. But another thing is to actually disband the subcommittee altogether, which has been formed by full council. So if you wanted to do that, I think you need to vote on that.
I think Councillor Newmark wishes to say something.
Yes, Madam Mayor, look, we've had a good debate this evening, and I think that there is certainly scope for a compromise here that perhaps both groups would be satisfied with. So I would like, under the procedural rules, to propose a motion without notice that agenda item 12 in its entirety, so that's Roman numeral 1, which is the motion we're currently discussing, and Roman numeral 2, which is the report following the International Affairs Subcommittee meeting, that both of these items are referred to the General Management Committee for further discussion. There's no need or no rush to take a decision here this evening. Surely if we can build some consensus and agree a way forward, that has to be preferable. So I'm suggesting that we end the debate at this point and take a vote on whether or not to refer both of these agenda items to the GMC, and I hope that's considered a reasonable compromise by colleagues around the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Newmark.
Yeah, can I please? Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Yeah, to go to the GMC, and we can discuss it there, and then you wanted to bring it back again, and what we discussed at GMC if it's not liked. Is that what you're saying? You're saying you want to discuss it at GMC and finish that, and get a decision, or if you don't get your decision, you want to bring it back again? I'm just proposing
that we refer the items to GMC, and then it's up to GMC what will happen next.
Okay. Okay. I for one, I agree to that.
Councillor Rubin.
I would like this motion to be withdrawn totally because of the aggressive nature of the wording of this motion, and to be a new motion to be negotiated to the GMC. I would like this motion to be removed and literally a new motion at GMC. The wording is very unpleasant, very aggressive, and exceptionally political. Something I would like to
agree with that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm in a political party and I'm happy to be political anytime. So, just put it out there. And I will be aggressive on that because I hear that comment so often from you, Councillor Rubner. And if you don't want to be in politics, the door is right there. Sorry, I am going to be rude on that. I'm fed up with hearing it. Councillor Rubner, I'm speaking. I've said that to Madam Mayor. I'm happy to second Councillor Newmark's motion without notice, Madam Mayor, and move to the vote.
Well, you first of all need to vote on whether you agree with the motion without notice, and then have the vote on that. So, do you agree?
Those in favour of agreement without notice?
This is, let me just be clear, this is
It's going to GMC.
Yeah, well, you're agreeing to, because the motion is without notice.
There's two motions. Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
I think we're still debating on this.
Councillor I would like to hear what Councillor Woodness did say.
I've already moved the motion to vote.
Okay, then,
So-
it's up to you. Okay.
So you're saying the GMC, that's what I basically said, then that motion, and then you discuss GMC, and then we can remove that. Because you're in GMC as well, so.
This motion that is presented, wasn't really discussing it. Councillor Newmark made a suggestion, which we haven't taken a vote on. So personally, I think
I moved the motion. Sorry, Madam Mayor, through you, I moved the motion to the vote to take it to GMC.
Councillor, hold on, please, can I finish? You know, and I don't think we've debated this thing fully. I've been raising my hand for a few times now, you know, to make a comment and having the done. So what I'm trying to say is let's debate it fully. Instead of bringing the GMC coming here, we all blame in one sense. This is full council. Let's debate it here and move on from there instead of going to GMC and coming back to the full council. How long will it drag? And what I want to say again is that why do we have this subcommittee if we have the Twitter Association, which we can do that with any country in the world we want to film with? So why is this subcommittee so important? Except that it's political. The group opposite want to make something out of it, which I don't think is right. So if we're disbanding it, let's vote for that. And if we're not, we move on from there. The data can be used to film with any country in the world. Nothing stops us doing that with the Twitter Association. I think that's what it's there for. Israel, Liberia, China, cannot come back to it later. So that's my contribution to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I hear what Councillor Annie's saying. I agree with what he's saying in the sense that the Twin Tower can twin with whom they like. I'm happy to support the Twin Tower in that venture if they wish to do so fully. I have agreed to second Councillor Newmark's motion without notice to take the motion tonight and item 2 on the report to GMC to make that decision. And as all members are aware, they are very welcome to come to that GMC meeting and listen to the debate and see how the vote is carried out, which you guys have the numbers anyway. So, Madam Mayor, I move the motion without notice to vote.
You jumped in too quick, sorry, because you weren't letting anybody else speak. You weren't letting anybody else speak, Richard, and you jumped in too quick. You would have got a better result if you wouldn't have done that. Honestly, you would. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do any of you any good to do that.
Thank you very much.
Where do we get from here?
So someone will still have their hand, but actually a motion has been put, so you can take a vote on that now. As I understand it, although it has been a little bit confusing, there's been various motions going backwards and forwards, some of which were withdrawn. Is that there's a motion without notice to refer these matters, or the matter in general, to the General Management Committee to see if we can resolve it there. As it is, if none of this is discussed, the status quo is in place, and the International Affairs Subcommittee still exists, just without a meeting.
You can't get away from it.
Councillor Newmark.
If it helps, my motion without notice to refer both of these agenda items to the GMC would, in my view, effectively achieve what Councillor Rubner is suggesting, because it would take the motion that he takes issue with the language on off the agenda of this council, and I can't believe that it would come back here from GMC in exactly the same terms. So I think there's a danger that people are perhaps vigorously agreeing with each other, because you support my motion to refer this to the GMC. It's in effect doing exactly what Councillor Rubner has asked for. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you.
So let's take a vote, Adam, I think it's probably enough time.
I agree, sir. So,
So the vote is for members to raise their hands if they support the motion to refer both matters to GMC.
We don't get it bad, will you?
It's actually unanimous, it's not unanimous, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in favour, and those against, 2 against, so it's carried.
It's carried, thank you very much. We now go to item 13, outside bodies.
Madam Mayor, on item 13, the Labour Group had a group meeting, such as yourselves, and from that group meeting, my group had discussed whether or not this item in future would be best having reports submitted to council and any questions raised from those reports answered at council by the relevant members, rather than listening to many members turning around saying no report to give, no report to give, one report read out with relevant information that people could ask questions on anyway. So we're just saying that actually it might be worth just having reports handed in, people read them, any questions, it will save time and we can actually get on with other council business.
Are you suggesting that it goes out with the summons to the meeting?
No, don't need to. Most committees, like for instance, Town Clerk, if there was any real issues from the Town Hall, I'm sure we would be notified that full council anyway. Lehman Road Big Local, often we hear no meetings happened, or it will just be a standard report given to a councillor, which that councillor can send round to councillors anyway. And if we've got a particular question, we can then identify which councillor that evening is going to give that report to, ask that question. If they have the answer that in the evening, they can answer it. If not, they can go back and find out the answer, which normally happens anyway. So we're just trying to save the council time and actually talk about other things that need to be spoken about. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't agree with Richard at all, 100%, and this is why. You can always get a report from anything you're on outside bodies, you can always get a report. Because you can ask one, you can see what's going on, you can be interested in what you've been given. If you've been given a leading rate of whatever it is, you can ask for a report, you can go and you can speak to them. I do exactly that with our Manor, and I do with Mr. Redmond. Also, one of your colleagues has that opportunity to do that as well. So I totally don't agree with it. When you say you haven't got reports because you're not bothered to get one, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I never thought we'd have a nice debate on this one either. The fact is, I've been on this council a long time, as you know, and since then, I've heard time and time again, Conservative councillors, Labour councillors, regardless of the political party, who are sitting on outside bodies, come back and say, no report to give. And I remember that. Hang on. I sat there and just listened. It's fine, you want to shout at me, it's fine.
Please, let me.
I'll wait until you finish.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, yeah, recommendation is that we have reports handed round to councillors, any questions, hand to council, it will save time. And actually, it's funny because most of the Conservative councillors sit on any committee that actually do get reports, but then the ones where Labour have been handed over, because Labour asked for committee chairman places, vice chairman places, a deputy mayor through the term of office when you hold this council with a majority of one, and that was all denied. But you gave us all these outside bodies where actually nothing happens, nothing's reported. You can say, excuse me. I'm happy to be shouted at, it's not a problem. I really don't care. Nothing happens in the sense that reports are not given to those members. Now, I appreciate some members do not appear to go to some of these things and have struggled to go to these things. And this is not directed to any one particular group, but a lot of the groups, and some groups have been removed in the past, i.e. the airfield, remember that one? We had a councillor sitting on that, that was removed because no one was invited, no one went to it. We get a report back from ones where members are actively involved, granted, but no, we don't have many reports come back to council. To me, it's time wasting. We can can save time, we can save effort by having reports circulated beforehand, questions answered in the evening. I don't think that's unreasonable. It's still giving you a chance to represent your organisation, and that's it. Thank you.
The only thing is, Councillor Butler, isn't it depriving the public who are watching online to hear the reports?
To answer,
Any reports that come through verbally, it's depriving the public.
to answer your question, Madam Mayor, the reports are submitted on the website and anyone can read them, such as all our other meetings. And like most of the Conservative councillors and Labour councillors commented in the past, hardly any members of the public turn up to our meetings anyway. And now we've actually got video recording, which the Labour group asked for, which I believe the Conservative group voted against. Actually, that's opening the door now to public to be able to see what happens in this council chamber. So just remind you of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I'd just like to point out, Councillor Butler, I'm going to call you your title, Councillor Butler. Bournemouth and Elstree Twin Town Association, Councillor Michelle Vince, we haven't had not one report. Unfortunately, Maxwell Park Management Group, we haven't had one report either, Councillor Charles, we haven't. We have reports from Mr. Redmond because I asked for it. So could Councillor Collins ask for it. I have a report from Alan Manor because I asked Tony for it, or Bob for it, and I get them because I take the trouble to do it. I absolutely, totally disagree that it's a waste of our time. We're here to let people know what's going on in the different organisations. And if you can't be bothered, don't sit on them. That's my opinion.
Councillor Parnell.
Councillor, you wish to speak?
Yes. Councillor Parnell, at least you were supposed to recognize my contribution with regards to the museum and also with regards to.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, you do. I'm talking about the people that haven't given reports. I didn't. If you've given a report, fantastic. You've taken an interest in it.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, in my opinion.
Councillor.
Yeah, these groups are supposed to be giving reports to the whole council. And all the reports are in a written form, printed, available on the website. I really find it surprising that the reports that are given by this group are just, sometimes offhand, sometimes from the scribbled few words here and there, converted into sentences. Instead of that, can we get a report like anything like this printed report, copies? If there is no report at all, let's assume that those groups have nothing to report.
Can I bring in, Madam to say, actually, I don't believe that the reports come from the groups directly. What it is that the members on the outside bodies are reported as the town council's liaison representatives on those groups. So the reports are made by the town councillors, not by the groups. The town councillors go on their outreach and then report back to the town council on their findings.
What is wrong? What I'm saying is, if Collins is supposed to give a report of the group, let Collins give it in writing, in a statement form just like this, not verbally. Because when you give something in writing, you do it very responsibly and you're accountable for it. Whereas the reports that we hear, either Collins or anybody else for that matter, are just on the spot, offhand, spontaneous. It's not fair.
So, as people know from my time as mayor, I was keen to shorten meetings, and if someone has a good idea to shorten the meeting outside.
So, we can't hear you.
As people know, that during the time when I was mayor, I was keen to shorten the meetings, and personally, I'm in favour of the idea of like shorten meeting, but I would have thought they should go to GMC first to discuss and agree whether any changes are made to the full council meeting, and then we can bring it to the full council meeting afterwards, instead of, debating it now. The other thing I'd like to ask, Mayor, if you could make sure that councillors on all sides ensure that their language is polite at all times and not ask other councillors to show them where the door is, because that's unacceptable, not very civil. There are better ways to phrase things.
I'm afraid I couldn't hear quite a lot about the honesty.
I could, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, just to actually could almost please Councillor Parnell and please Councillor Rubin at the same time here and say, actually, where there's no report to be given, rather than actually we've not had a report given via these places for some time, maybe just remove those for the meantime, and when a report is to be given, actually have that report circulated and try it that way. I appreciate some councillors may not have even attended some outside bodies, which is actually letting this authority down, and that should be amended ASAP. So let's look at that. Other bodies, there has been no meetings. We've had COVID, so legitimate reasons why no reports have been given. I think personally, I would, I would happily take this to GMC, but GMC's agenda has obviously got its own things to do as well. There's only so much we can discuss at GMC. It's an idea from my group. Personally, it wasn't an idea that came from me. I'm happy for other members of my group to get involved in the discussion, but I still stand by what my group would like. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Parnell.
Yeah, I wouldn't you like to know that Maxwell Park is still standing and doing well? Wouldn't the public like to know that? Because it is, but I will never, ever, ever get a report. Never. I can't understand the problem with making a phone call and asking how are you doing? Are you busy? They're delighted to tell you. They're absolutely delighted to tell you how well they're doing.
Councillor Newman, and then Councillor Rennie.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm not quite sure where this discussion is getting us, to be honest, but perhaps the issue at hand here is that it's high time that we had a strategic review as to which outside bodies this council is represented on, why we're represented on those bodies, and perhaps rather than have a list of 2 or 3 minute reports every meeting, that at each council meeting we might wish to invite one of those outside bodies to join us and have a more in-depth conversation about their activities perhaps over the past 6 months or so, understand what their future plans are and how we can work with them in a meaningful way as a council, and that discussion could of course be led by our representative. But I think that this has been an item that's just been standing on the agenda for many, many years. We could probably do it better if we're honest about it. The truth is that there are probably lots of other outside bodies in the community that the council is now involved in that we weren't when this standing list was set up. For instance, the High Centre, the Forward Unity Network, the Diversity Festival. We should probably take some time to review the list, look at the organisations we engage with, and actually have meaningful engagement with 1 or 2 of those organisations per meeting, rather than the rote reports.
Councillor Parnell, you're the chairman of the GMC. Is this something that, in your opinion, should be considered by the GMC? Revamping the committee is actually what, revamping the selection of committees and choices.
I honestly think that it's important to engage with these organisations. I think it's extremely important. They're delighted to see you, and they want us on. They want us to be their representatives. You know, I didn't, for instance, go to Alan Manor to ask if I could be their representative. How did you? But they asked us to. So I think it's very important to be involved.
Councillor Rennie, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that asking members to submit the report before the meeting instead of the meeting is not the right thing to do. Most members spend their time to attend the meetings of these groups to be able to get this report. And for this report to be cheating the way the group opposite is doing, I don't think it's right that we should be wasting our time and make for those meetings. And if the attendance to these outside bodies and the reports are not being delivered by the group here, this discussion will not, we won't be having this discussion. is that the group opposite is failing on this particular item in terms of report and the meetings of outside bodies. That's why we have this discussion. And we're talking about saving time. We have wasted so much time talking about this particular issue that we shouldn't have. By now it will have been concluded. So what I'm saying is, I don't see the reason why we should be discussing this at all. It's for members appointed to these bodies to make the effort to attend the meetings and give us reports here. Simple. So, in my own opinion, I would say that we keep it the way it is, and members of groups that are members are not attending those meetings should do something about those members that are not attending the meetings, that they should attend and report it to this house. Thank you.
Councillor Strack. Okay, I agree with Councillor Andy. We've spent so much time thinking about this. We could finish with these reports in this time. So I would vote that we move on now. And if Richard wants to come and talk to me individually about something like this, then I'm prepared to listen to him. I don't want to hear any more tonight. I think we just need to get on with the agenda.
Councillor Butler.
Last one then, thank you, Madam Mayor. Absolutely. I hear the frustration that there might be something good on telly, maybe I don't know. Look, yeah, absolutely. All the comments tonight. So look, I like Councillor Newmark's suggestion as well. Let's revamp it. Let's look at new groups, organisations. You know, I've not indicated that actually I don't want to hear from groups. I just think it's not a good use of council time when we have packed agendas when things could be circulated beforehand. I'm happy to take my group's concern to your group leader, Councillor Strack, have this discussion, and maybe we can table that later on the full council meeting, with maybe a revamp, new groups, new ideas, and get people involved in other ways. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to now listen to the reports, and thank you for the discussion.
Actually, Councillor Butler, let's go on to the outside bodies.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, if this is first impressions, Councillor Collins could read this out if you chooses to. Yes? Would you pass it to?
Right. And I call on the town clerk to talk about Fairway Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In view of the time and the nature of the discussion that's happened previously, I shall be very brief. Town Council is very happy to report that the use of Fairway Hall is back to pre-COVID levels. In fact, we're staggered at just how many bookings we're taking, especially on the weekends. So the caretakers are both working to full capacity at those times, which is very good news in terms of the use of Fairway Hall. We're happy for it to continue. There are some outstanding issues in terms of the finance package for taking bookings and deposits for Fairway Hall. There has been an agreement of the General Management Committee that IT consultants will come and help us seek to try and integrate some of our services so that in future hirers of the hall can actually book online as well and pay online directly, which will be a great way of streamlining and modernising the service that we provide in the future. In terms of the issue of the whole floor, the ongoing saga, I'm happy to report that the floor, by all accounts, appears to be holding up extremely well, and an independent risk assessment has been commissioned. But at the moment, all parties seem broadly happy that the floor is in a good state. Ironwood Flooring, who carried out the work, have been commissioned to come and finish their snagging issues with regards to, I think there was one part which was dipping near the kitchens. So in essence, we're very happy with all the work that's gone on to decorate the hall. I hope you can see and enjoy that too, the radiators being painted with new blinds and the lights and so on. But of course, if there are any other improvements that you would like to recommend for the hall, please pass those on to us, and we'll seek to do that. But I think we can all be very proud that Fairway Hall is a very desirable location for residents and visitors to use and enjoy, and a very well used one.
Thank you. I must say, I do think the hall looks very nice. I'm sure you'll agree. Learning a Cliff Big Local Advisory Panel. Councillor Vince is not here this evening. Councillor Rubin, do you have anything to report to us, please?
Unfortunately, they had a AGM on Monday. Unfortunately, I didn't get back from work in time to make the meeting. I think the council events did attend, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you. Elstone Museum, Councillor Collins.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. A few weeks ago, Councillor Kazai escorted me to be accompanied to the museum, and we met a couple of volunteers, and we got to find out that the museum is gradually upgrading itself, and gradually folks are attending the museum to see how things are. But the public hasn't attended en masse to the museum, and we're told that the Holby exhibition is going to be moved shortly, and we're very grateful for the invaluable services that the volunteers give. They are elderly folks, of course, and they do their best, and they try to reach out to the public in a very meaningful way. And I'm saying this to say that they urge us to spread the good news about the museum being open to the public, because there has not been massive advertisement about the museum, the opening of the museum. So we were urged to go about and talk about the museum to all of you folks, and you folks can spread the news that the museum is open and is doing something there. But at the same time, Madam, I'm about to conclude. At the same time, they need 1 or 2 new exhibitions, and you folks can propose something, and then I will carry forward and ask them to see whether it is appropriate for them. Thanks.
Thank you. Maybe a little note should go in every town crier saying the museum is now open. Seems a good idea. I don't know how everyone feels about it. Just,
Usually the museum sends in an article.
fine, just a suggestion. Bournemouth Twin Town Association Council events is not here this evening, so obviously there's no report on that. Elstree Bournemouth and District Community Association.
Richard, would you like to request? Because you're my second in command.
Is this the one here? Update from the Town Council 3 months on from the end of COVID-19 restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to know that 96% of Alan Manor's regular. Why am I seconding one? Oh, yeah, of course. Yes, because you're normally there, obviously. Of Alan Manor, regular customers have returned. Some of these customers are still concerned about COVID, and we have accommodated them in our large hall rather than in the smaller rooms they were in previously, enabling them to socially distance. During the lockdown, we've renovated both kitchens.
Because I can't understand what you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
You want me to start that paragraph again? No, that's fine, man. No problem, Madam Deputy Mayor. One way or the other, you want to report, so. No, that's fine, Madam Deputy Mayor, sorry, no, that's fine. During lockdown, we renovated both kitchens in the Manor House and decorated every room, replacing floor coverings and changing from curtains to blinds. Returning customers have commented favourably on these improvements. We have also completely cleaned and repaired the Allen Lane roof hall. Sorry, Allen Hall now, isn't it? Roof. A similar scheme is to refurbish the outside of the Manor House whilst keeping in tune with the listed status. It's planned for the spring 2022. As public confidence increases, booking for major functions in 2022/2023 have also started to pick up. Sorry, I thought someone. Have also started to pick up, and this is increasing. COVID-19 vaccinations have been a major part of Allen Manor's life since January 2021, with 3 clinics a week on average in a large end of Allen Lane Hall. Around 70,000 Hartsby residents have had first and second jabs, and the NHS are now on course to complete the booster vaccinations for over 50s. The recent government announcement that over 40s can get boosters means that the vaccinations are likely to be given at Allen Manor well into 2022. In addition to vaccinations, a pair of porta cabins located in our car park have formed an assessment centre where patients are accessed by a GP, either by phone or in person, saving them a trip to A&E.
Councillor Connor, you want to add something?
Thank you very much, Richard, for doing that for me. It's really kind of you. Now, the politics of it is great because now this is on camera, so now you've got a little bit of, you're talking about us reporting on these. This was your problem, that you didn't want us to report when we report because it's not politically enough for you, but now it is. Because you've done all
Councillor Connor, let's keep politics.
That's exactly what you just said.
That's a bit.
Let's keep politics out of these reports. But I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone when I congratulate the association on their inoculation programme. They've made an enormous difference in the town, and long may they continue with this good work. I'm sure you'll join with me in that.
Yes.
Hertsmere Bencat, Councillor Eddy, do you have something to tell us?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This is a committee meeting held early in September this year. I'm glad to report that they had a successful golf day on the 23rd September at Asborn Golf Club. Paul, the chairman of Hertsmere Bencat, confirmed that they had about 18 teams to play. They are also planning for Christmas party for their members. The party will be on the 11th of December, starting from 7:30 till 10. They have about 5 committee members surrounding it. It will be full of different entertainments, including DJ and Father Christmas and one or two other entertainments. They are planning to start 2 new activities, which is a healthy eating program and a media club. And also they did competition for the name of the media club, and they agreed on Hear My Voice will be the name and the name of the magazine they were appointing. They received 2 grants one from Hertsmere Borough Council to cover core costs like hot hiring, running costs and salaries. And also they received grant from Postcode Lottery to cover IT requirements and website development. They have a nurse ARC who works with them, and they are reporting that they had a very successful 2 trips over the summer. And Madam Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you very much. Now call on Councillor Strack, Alderman Country Park.
Alderman Country Park provided a panel 2 weeks ago. I chaired the meeting and I set the dates. Survey of emails have come from the Goswami brothers. They have offered to pay HBC for an independent dam survey, but that offer has not yet been taken up. HBC suggests that Liberty Lake Leisure Limited set up the survey. Liberty Lake Leisure Limited say if they do, it will not be considered independent. Mahesh Vaswani suggests heritage money, still S106 money, so an embankment could be built that could protect the dam. HBC and Herts County Council still await plans from Liberty Lake Leisure, now called the Dual Parks Community. Mahesh says he's put in a pre-application to Hertsmere Borough Council to reduce the spillway by 2 metres. He says as the sluice is 225 years old, it cannot be relied on to lower the water. The work would cost about £500,000. The Environment Agency has purely a health and safety brief. The Environment Agency would probably not challenge lowering the level of the water, but there could be new safety issues with people and animals stuck in the slide. As the water levels are lower at cost, access to nesting waterfowl are an issue. HBC environmental health officers were called upon to report on the safety issues with the enclosed fowl building reservoir at the end of the summer, but the algae always goes in the cold weather. The gate opening has again been secured until the 31st of March. Herts County Council have a court date set for April the 5th, re-access to the footpath. The deeds of 1938 include all development on site, but they hope to reach a reasonable use agreement with Liberty Lake Leisure or the Partner Limited. If Liberty Lake Leisure Limited continue ownership, they want their log cabin scheme to be approved, which is very unlikely. The footpath, which is, Ormond Country Park Trust Limited has tried for some time to get registered as a right of way, is still with the inspectorate, and we've got no idea when it's likely to come through because now most of the inspectors have resigned. I have to acknowledge the hard work of Angela Simpkins in getting previous evidence verified for this all to move to the next stage, and to the longevity of the people who filled in forms to say they've used the lake from 1954. If the reservoir were to be sold, a start-up business could be a problem for Alderman Renaissance, and the Town Council have asked to register the reservoir as an asset of community value, and we need to make some progress in that. Why hasn't site EMP1 been included in the draft Parksmere local plan? This could be a solution to the ongoing problem of how to fund the dam. It has been suggested that the coalescence between an employment zone could be the reason, or coalescence with the proposed park. It was agreed that there should be a future vision for the Fulham Country Park by all the people participating in the panel. The advisory panel would like to see special status granted to Alderman Country Park, including the reservoir and assemblies, to protect it so that it continues to benefit all the people of Parksmere, Hertfordshire, of North London and beyond. This is a very special place for many people. Protection is needed to ensure that generations to come will be able to enjoy it. Alderman Renaissance reported they had good takings over Halloween and have plans for a drive-through Santa's Grotto. There won't be any Christmas parties in the marquee this year. That's the end of my report.
Thank you for that comprehensive report. Maxwell Park Management Group.
Thank you, Madam
Councillor Chalice.
Sorry, I came in too early there. First of all, I would like to confirm Maxwell Park is still standing. And it's recently, I just wanted to let you know, it is still standing. Definitely still standing. And it's recently benefited from some Midsfield Day activities that took place in the wider park. So thank you to all of those involved with that. Local schools have been able to visit the park and have been using it to carry out both environmental quality surveys. This was very exciting for local schools because they've not been able to run many field trips in with COVID and so on. So they've been carrying out environmental quality surveys, observations on local heritage, and also placemaking. And most excitingly, they were able to see Buckingham Palace from there. Who knew you could see Buckingham Palace from Maxwell Park, albeit a green screen edition of Buckingham Palace. In terms of the centre, events and activities are running. There's something for everyone there, ranging from fitness classes to activities for younger children. I aim to visit there in person in due course and hopefully get a bit more of an idea of what we can do to help support the wider management group. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much indeed for those reports. We're now on item 14, public participation. I apologise, I'm so sorry, forgive me. First impressions with Councillor Parnell. Councillor Collins, the representative. I do apologise.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thanks so much. First impressions of the Town Council. We is on the 24th of October 2021.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Let me skip a bit, please.
Okay, I'll skip a bit. Okay, meeting of first impression of the project board. The meeting by Zoom will be arranged as soon as Teams Link confirms its timetable to complete our PBF Passenger Benefit Fund project. Also, we have the Passenger Benefit Fund. After full public consultation, First Impressions submitted a bid on 31st of July 2019 for $80,000 to be allocated to L Street and Borehamwood. There were more planting on the station forecourt. At the start of April 2021, small shrubs were placed in 6 planters on the station forecourt near the taxi rank. Another 5 small planters were added to the area by Adam Lane, and a large planter created 6 years ago by the Youth Council was weeded and partially replanted. We have the extra seating. The 2 new seats requested in 2019, one inside the booking hall and one out in front, were expected by Teams Link to be in place before the end of September. Teams Link are still unable to confirm an installation date. There's a proposed an electronic information kiosk in front of the station. GTR Teams Link confirmed in late June, that the Department for Transport will cover the funding shortfall of GTR estimated. Since then, there have been several virtual meetings with representatives of Teams Link and the supplier of the 21st century. On the evening of 22nd November, the new kiosk was delivered, installed, and connected to power and broadband. The design team is now preparing its concepts for displaying the travel and community information which we have specified should be shown. In the meantime, we have received hardware and text from a range of local film and TV, as well as community service groups, plus members of First Impressions eager to have a presence on the kiosk. These include Elstree Studio, Sky Studio, Elstree, the BBC, ESD Academy, Elstree and Borehamwood Town Council, Hartsmead Borough Council, Hertfordshire County Council, Elstree Screen Heritage, number 96 Shenley Road, Inspire Hall, the library, and Allo Manor Community Center. With regards to public spaces, in July, Mayor Turner and Councilor Eno, with Ian Churchill of Hartsmead, new heads of street scenes, in a 2-hour tour of public spaces, including Centenary Place, a site which First Impressions and the Youth Council helped to improve. We later contacted Ian Kershaw without reply. Thoughts on First Impression for Town Pride. Councilor Parnell and Collins, the Town Council represented on the board of First Impressions, wrote articles setting out their views on this community-based initiative, of which the Town Council is a founder member. These were published in the autumn edition. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Councillor. We now come to item 14, public participation, question time. 15 minutes of the meeting will be given over to questions from members of the public relating to Town Council business. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask us or any comments they would like to make? Mr. Redmond.
Thank you very much. I don't have any questions, but I do have some information for you to add to what Councillor Collins has read out. At 6:45 this evening, I received the following email from Mr. Ladbury, Thameslink. Bob, I'm sorry for not having got back to you earlier on this, but I've been chasing the project as Anuska has now left the organization. Anuska, I met one time, she is the project manager. She comes, she goes, and now she's left. I think it's important you understand that. So this is news to me. I met her once, about a year and a half ago. I've never had an email from her. A contractor is coming out next week to lay the bases for the seats with the view of installing them the week after. These is the seating in the booking hall and the seating outside the booking hall, which was agreed with the station manager 2.5 years ago. I have sent them the photos of the locations that you had previously forwarded to me as a reminder of where they should go. I'll be on the scene to make sure that they go in the place that was agreed 2.5 years ago. Another observation, I received a message at 1:45 on Tuesday morning from the installation team to say that the kiosk was not only in place, which I'd seen myself, but it has power and it has broadband connectivity. Councillor Ribbler has pointed out earlier that the kiosk is alive at the front of the station. And this is absolutely true. It's irregular, but may I walk among you just to show you this, because I'm sure many of you will not have seen this. If you'll permit me, I'll talk so we don't waste time. This is on the site of the previous kiosk, which disappeared when the station was redeveloped. At the moment, this kiosk is, as I said, live and connected to broadband. All it's showing at the moment is the travel information, which was requested by public consultation. This is real-time travel information from buses and from trains. That's part of what was asked, and it's now live and operational.
Can you remind us how much that costs?
I can, but that's not all you're getting.
67.
Whether you get this value for money is quite another matter, but we can discuss that. The other thing that was requested by the consultation, by the communities and the residents of Elster and Warren Wood, was information on matters of local interest. And so this screen is now being programmed to provide, if you like, an electronic bulletin board with information on all the groups that Councillor Collins has mentioned. Other groups have signed up as well. There will also be a wayfinder so that people who come here can find a map and go through the village. In addition, there'll be an ability for groups like this one to advertise activities like the fireworks, like the lighting up of the Christmas lights, and these can be scheduled and displayed in a public place. Vaccination clinics, all that sort of thing can be done as well. It's only pixels, it's only software, so it's all possibility. Whether you regard information on outside the building on real-time train and bus departures and arrivals as of value, that could be debated, but that's what people have asked for. Whether you feel that sharing information, current information, new information on a regular basis for service groups in the town is worth that, well, we'll know when the statistics show us just whether people are actually looking at that or not.
Mr. Whitman, can I thank you so much for what the information you've given us. You know, we only have 15 minutes for this part of the meeting, and I believe there are a couple of other people that would like to speak. Councillor Whitman, briefly, please.
Just a quick comment regarding the kiosk. It's very poorly sighted. You can't see it when you leave the station, and you can't see it if you approach the station from Elstree or Theobald or the Theobald Street. You can only see it if you get off a bus in the station car park or you come from the station road. So it's all very nice, doesn't money spent on it, but I would argue that probably a good majority of people who use the station, either come or going, will not even notice this kiosk.
Thank you for that comment. Councillor Stowe, if I could ask you to be brief,
Can I
please.
just make Chair or... Look, oh, she's here.
Yes. Please, Nick. The lady, I'm sorry, could you say your name?
Yes,
Who you represent, please?
I'm Judy Hunt, I'm Chair of Bournemouth Food Bank. Bournemouth Food Bank is the mayoral charity of the year, and as such we became known with this opportunity to speak at the council meeting, and I am on behalf of the food bank, I would like to make the following request of the council. It comes at a time where at the food bank, we're just sort of working our way out of the effects of the pandemic and preparing for Christmas, and I think we're taking stock. Lady Mayor and Councillors, I'm really coming here with a request that the council, in whichever way they deem appropriate, may give a vote of thanks to the residents of Borehamwood and Elstree for their continuous and loyal support of Borehamwood Food Bank by means of food donations. All their contributions really do demonstrate the kindness and compassion that residents have for each other and for those in need in the community, and we see this day by day, but we really want to, spread that very widely and feel that it is something that the council and the community can be extremely proud of. Furthermore, we feel that we would like to ask the council to give a special commendation to young people who support Borehamwood Food Bank. We've been inspired recently by the efforts of residents such as Aiton Wittenberg, who, aged 12, prepared for his bar mitzvah by collecting 300 cans of food. And he fasted for 13 hours over the time of that food drive. Aiton visited the food bank to research his food drives, and his community spirit and kindness are inspirational. But furthermore, we have been overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed by the harvest donations we've received from absolutely every primary school in this borough. On one occasion, I collected food which covered the area of that stage quite fully, and we were really touched by the school telling us that they had made a huge donation to us because they felt we had been there in the pandemic for so many of their pupils. The generosity that those that came at the time of that harvest donation, when we were ourselves coming out of the pandemic and resources were very stretched, so we've been very, very grateful for the support from the schools. It's heartening for the food bank to be supported by young people and their families. Brownies, Cub Scout groups also play their parts in supporting those in need, so we feel it is important and we would like the council to join us in acknowledging and promoting the kind gestures of the younger generation.
Actually, every word you said just confirms how proud we are of this town and how proud we are of you young people. But I would plead with everyone who's listening, it's a festive time of the year, but I know it's not festive for everyone. So anything you can donate to the food bank will be very, very gratefully received, however small. Thank you. I think we've got a few more minutes.
May I just make another request, please? As you visited yourself, Lady Mayor, I would next year like to extend our warm welcome to all the councillors at various times. And I would like to reach out to you next year to come and visit us because although we do give out food, we do so much more. And I think that it was very, very it's been an important thing for councillors to come in and see in detail that relationship of how we're working through the community.
Thank you, and I must tell you from experience, it's really overwhelming. It's worth a visit if you can do it. It really is. Councillor Chalice, you wanted to say something?
Thank you. I was just going to request, please, Madam Mayor, for you, if we could formally minute our thanks to the work of the food bank in what they do, because I know that, as you said, it's so much more than honey up, and that's such a vital part of it, but I know that you also do a lot in terms of engaging younger people and so on, so yeah, we could formally minute our thanks.
Thank you, yes, and I must tell you that I was staggered because it's a food bank, but they were giving out school uniforms and things that I never imagined came onto their portfolio, so I'm sure I'll speak of everyone in the town. We're extremely, extremely grateful, overwhelmed. Thank you.
Councillor Ellie.
Mrs. Ellie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to add something first because we're on the subject of the food bank.
We have about 3 or 4 minutes left.
That's fine, we can use my minutes then. The Diversity Festival that we held here with the support of all of you has also collected money for the food bank. Now, the accounts have not been made, but we have at least £300 for them that we will donate in due time.
Wonderful, I think that must turn into quite a lot of food. Councillor Newmark, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, just whilst we're on the subject of the Diversity Festival, to congratulate really yourself, Victor, actually Councillor Ennie, and everyone else that was involved, because it was such an important moment at such an important time for the local community, you know, against the backdrop of seeing activity around the borough from fascist groups like Britain First and Patriotic Alternative. There was public questions, but I did have one question that emanates from that. We very kindly, the artist who painted the Nelson Mandela picture that was on display at the Diversity Festival, who agreed to a request from myself on behalf of the council. In fact, we asked to buy it, and he very kindly donated it to the council. And I'm just slightly perplexed as to why it's hidden on display upstairs and why it's not on display in the wonderful position it was at the event itself.
I can't answer that. I
can answer that. Somebody said in the hall after the diversity, and it was up here on the wall, why shouldn't we have a church on the wall as well? So, you know, it makes it very political, and I said we should take it upstairs. That's it. That was why we
I don't understand.
Well, I don't understand, but that's what was said.
Councillor Strack, you want to say something?
Just very quickly, in answer to what you said, perhaps the town council can put a small article themselves in the town crier, thanking the people and also telling about what my town, Wittenberg, has done, but we would have to get permission from his parents.
Yes, I had the pleasure of meeting him. It was overwhelming, actually, that a child, a 12-year-old, is a child that would think to do such a thing and go to so much effort. I was really, really proud to meet him. Really proud. I think our 15 minutes is up now. Unless anyone, I don't mind extending it a few minutes if anyone's got anything else to say.
Yeah, I had a question. The question I submitted for today's council was to ask the follow-up, you know, commitment. At the entertainment meeting, we have been told that the official letter from invitation for family day will go to the mayor of the Twin Town. I was just asking, when will this happen?
As I understand it through you, Madam Mayor, this was discussed at the last Entertainments Committee, which has only just occurred. Families, there will be a weekend next year, so there's a bit for families weekend. I think actually responded today with a bit of information about the budgets and so on for next year. So there's an agreement of the council to do so. A letter to both the mayors of Fontenay and Offenburg can go very, very quickly to invite them if that's what they want to do. I suspect that members are broadly in agreement with that approach.
Thank you. That is the end of public participation. But before you leave and before you turn off anything at the other end down, I just want to remind the public that the Christmas lights are going on at 4:30 on Sunday in Shenley Road. But before that, there's lots of things for the children to do in the piazza behind the church. Please come out and help us celebrate. It's the first time for a couple of years we've been able to do this. Please come. And I'll also remind you that over the road in the shopping centre, it's the first night of the Jewish Festival of Hanukkah. There'll be a lot of festivities, a lot going on. Come and celebrate also. And I'm delighted to know that the town council contributed a decent sum towards this. It's for everyone in the town. Please come to both things. Thank you. I must now ask the public to leave, please.
Yes.
I need to move the 19th.
The mayor,
As I said, we
the mayor to move the following, the mayor to move the following resolution, that under the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 S1/2, the press and public be excluded from the meeting whilst matters pertaining to individual nominations for civic awards are discussed. Thank you. Honouring free women to consider nominations presented to full council